can do it,
oh, lost
Look
it.
at that. I planned that the whole time.
What's up, boys? Today we're going on an adventure. We put a brass diff cover on the front of the C10 and 33% underdrive in the rear. And we're going to go to the new crawling location. If you've seen my other videos, if you haven't, pause this, go watch them all. This will be waiting for you when you get back. But we're going to run a competition style course to see how it's doing. While I'm driving there, y'all can go ahead and watch the upgrade footage, and I'll meet you there.
Identity is stolen. Oh.
This is just down the street from me. Landscaping company. I actually got my rocks from them, but they built these two big mounds of rocks, but there's all these keep out signs. I think we should crawl it someday. Here's what we're working with today. We've got brass diff gear covers from Endura. I don't remember how much these weigh. Decent. It does come in a set of two. We're just going to use one on the front, as we want to get that 60-40 weight bias towards the front. And then we've got a new diff gear set. So all the diff gears are a worm screw, or worm gear rather, and a standard looking gear. This gear set is 33% slower than the stock gearing. So we're going to put the diff gears in the rear so we get the back tires to spin slower than the front tires. And the diff cover will go on the front for forward weight bias. And what we hope to achieve with this, of course, when we're climbing, that forward weight is going to help hold that front end down, so we're not going to topple over backwards. And at the same time, with the front wheels spinning faster than the rear wheels, the theory is that these front wheels will grab and kind of drag the back end behind it, which will help keep this front end planted. So we're going to do a turning radius test with the stock setup. We'll do the modifications, get these rear tires spinning slower, and then we're going to repeat our turning radius test. And in theory, we should get a tighter turning radius. We'll see if that holds true. Let's do a little turning radius test. We're going to do it stock. So no underdrive installed yet. We've got our tape line. We're going to line up at this edge of the tape with the tires just on this side. And this is all for science. So we're going to do full lock and slow crawl. And let's see. Goodness gracious. We may not have enough room. All right, so we ran out of room. I'm going to mark that with a piece of tape, and then we're going to do it fast, see if it's any different. We'll throw in the rear underdrive, 33% underdrive diff gear, and see if our turning radius changes. Our blue tape, using to mark where we ran out of room. So let's reset. Wind up again on the left side. Tires are just on that side of the tape. So full lock, and then we'll drive a little faster. And it's a little tighter, so we'll go ahead and mark that. So stock slow turn or slow crawl turn, higher speed turn. And after we get the diff gear in, let's repeat this and see if there's any change. To help visualize what changes we're going to see when we're done with these upgrades, this is the stock gearing setup, and when I pull the throttle trigger, they should spin at the same rate. It does help, though, if you turn the thing on. All right, so take two. When I pull the throttle trigger, they will spin at the same rate. So one rotation in the front equals one rotation in the back. Pretty easy to see that. So that's the stock gearing. We are going to put in our rear underdrive gear, and so it's going to slow it down 33%. So when the front makes one full rotation, this is going to make 2/3 of a rotation. We'll come back to that in just a moment once we've got the upgrades completed, and repeat this to help visualize what the change actually is that's happening. We're going to start with the front diff cover. Get it out of the way just because it's the most annoying one to do, because we have to deal with the steering linkages to get to it. So we'll just plow on ahead. We are going to go ahead and unscrew our steering links from our steering knuckles. I'm going to try to be lazy and leave my servo horn on. If it's in the way, take it off. Just remember how to center your servo horn when you put it back on. If you don't, no worries. Go refer back to our servo install video. I think that was episode 2, if I remember correctly. So now we can get to our diff cover. We've got 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we unscrew the top 2, our servo tray is going to come loose. So just be aware of that. This is where you should really use the handle. I think I will use it this time. I know, you've all never seen this. I'm actually using the tool properly, the way it was designed to be used. Oh yeah, much easier. Injora also makes a nice electric version. So these bits will go into the electric screwdriver and do all the work for you, which is pretty cool. I've never used one. I'm not sure if I trust it. Uh-oh. Quality control issue here. That's not wanting to come loose. It is partially stripped for some reason. We're going to jump up to a 1.3 and see if we can get this to turn loose, and then we're going to toss that screw. You'll find that every now and again. They're making thousands of these tiny little screws. One or two of them is going to be bad. Doesn't look too bad, but it definitely didn't work. So that one's junk. No worries though. We got hardware with ours. I think I'm going to dig around for a black screw because I don't want a bunch of silver screws on the front diff. Got to go back to the correct .05. That's 5 down, 1 to go. And we can just twist that out of the way. Since our servo horn is still attached, it will recenter itself when we turn it back on. And let's take a look inside, see what we've got. I don't like that. It's got a tiny bit of grease, but not much. But on the inside of the diff cover, there's a bearing. Behind this worm screw, let's just go ahead and pop it out. Nah, I'm going to be lazy. I'll show you on the rear one since we're going to pull that all the way apart. But always a good idea to pull your trucks apart. Check that they're greased properly. This one doesn't impress me too much, so I'm glad we're doing this sooner rather than later. As if we checked in a month or two, be a bunch of pretty dust in here. I'm going to use some ProTech RC O-ring grease. I picked this up from Triple Crown RC Hobbies. And super convenient applicator. So we're just going to squeeze some grease in there. And then I'm just going to manually spin the drive shaft. Because of the worm screw setup, you cannot turn the wheels manually. You're going to strip your gears if you try to do that. So don't try to spin your wheels. Worm screws only work one direction. Oh, drive shaft came apart. That makes it easy. I'm just giving that a good spin while it's open. Put a bit more grease on there. We'll call that good. Injora does send some extra bearings, but I think we'll just use the one that's here. It should fit just fine. Yeah, I'm not going to fight with that on camera. We'll just grab a new bearing. That just drops right in there. That's one thing I really like about the Scx24. Ball bearings throughout. Some other brands will use bushings instead of bearings. You're going to get more friction with the bushing setup. But if you're running your rig through water, bushings are actually better, because the bearings, even if they're sealed, they can rust. And that would be not a good thing. So we're greased up. Our bearing is in there. And all we do is put the new cover on. There's a little bit of a gap here. It's not wanting to close quite right. Just kind of wiggle it and press it into place, and then it's fitting better. Before we start with the servo tray screws, though, since I'm just going to put one screw in the bottom just to get it started, and then we need to put our drive shaft back together. This is my least favorite part of working on these things. I hate these drive shafts. I even have pretty narrow, skinny fingers, and there's just not much room. Make sure we're going to get our drive shafts phased. There's nothing more annoying than getting your rig put back together and realizing that you put it back together wrong. Because then you get to undo some or all of your work instead of crawling, and that's a bummer. That's a hassle. All right, so drive shaft is reattached. Remember, longer screws go in the top. We talked about that when we installed the servo. Sort of talked about it. And see, I didn't pick it up carefully. Drive shaft came loose again. Come on. Okay, good gracious. I've been doing this for a year, and I still struggle with these things. So if you find yourself getting frustrated, you're not alone. So again, I like to look and see how close that screw head is, so I don't accidentally over tighten it. I think our drive shaft is still out of phase. All right, I'm going to do this off camera. You've watched me struggle enough. I'm going to get that drive shaft phase, and then we'll get this button back up. I went ahead and did up the diff cover, so all the screws are in. Not too tight, of course, just snug down. But I discovered something, and it's going to be a great example. This screw here that holds in our upper link to the servo tray is working itself out. One thing we have not talked about yet, and this is a perfect time to do that, is when you're screwing into metal like this upgraded servo tray is, it's a good idea to use a little bit of blue Loctite or thread locker. I think the brand is Loctite. So, good idea to do it on your wheels when you're assembling them. I'm keeping an eye on these. My Loctite dried up, and I've just forgotten to buy some more. That's why I have not done it on this. However, do not ever use Loctite into plastic. It will corrode and damage the plastic to the point that it becomes brittle and breaks, and you will not be able to screw anything into it. So never, never, never use Loctite into plastic. It's going to ruin it. Use Loctite when you're metal to metal, like we are here. If we upgraded to metal axles, you could use it and should use it here. But that'll help prevent screws from backing out. So it's always a good idea to inspect your rig after every few runs and make sure everything's still tight and right. Because these things are tiny and they will undo themselves some. So now all we need to do, screw back on our steering links, and hopefully this diff cover is not so thick that our steering link contacts it and we lose some steering angle. Hard to tell until we get it all screwed back together, so I will get that reassembled and then we'll take a look and see if it's going to affect our steering, and then we'll have a few options on how to remedy that. Got it all reassembled, went ahead and turned it on, and what I'm looking at is that very small space now between the diff cover and the steering link. I think we are contacting it. Not enough that I'm going to do anything about it now. It's after 11 o'clock at night. My wife's trying to sleep. But with the upcoming steering mod, that is going to need to be addressed. And the way I'm going to address it, and I'm going to do it off camera. Y'all are smart enough to use a Dremel to do this. I'm going to Dremel the back edge of this steering link down. I want to keep the weight here. This is a pretty thick link, so I don't think we're going to lose any structural integrity for the amount of forces involved by taking some material off the back of this link. And I'll mark it so I know how much to take off. So I'm going to move the steering either side. And since we're going to be modifying this, I'm going to probably come out another 3, 4, 5 millimeters further than my outside mark on the diff cover. And I'll Dremel that down a millimeter or two. That's probably all we need. You can always take off more. You can't add it back, so start with less. But I also want to talk about something I did that was really stupid off camera, and that you're going to do at some point, because I just did it. I hear about it online all the time. People do it all the time, especially kids with a new rig. I had unhooked the ESC to work on it, and I am so used to brushless setups that I took my motor cord and plugged the battery into it. That creates a short circuit. These wires got very hot almost instantly. I was scrambling to get it to pull apart. I very nearly let the magic smoke out of this ESC. It got very hot too. I don't know how I didn't blow it, but if you do that, you're almost certainly going to ruin your ESC. It happens in the stock ESC receiver very frequently. So just pay attention to what you're doing. Be safe. Don't work on these little rigs, especially the electronics, if you're in an altered state of mind, if you're tired. Because you can make a mistake that's dangerous. So with that out of the way, safety lecture done. We've got the front end done. That added, I think these are 10, 12 plus grams. I'll leave a link in the description, of course. I'm using my phone to record, otherwise I just look it up so I could say on the video. So now we're going to do the same thing in the rear. We're going to take the rear diff cover off to access the diff gears. And these are the new ones that we're going to put in. This is 33% underdrive. But to remove the gears, we're also going to have to pull our wheels and axle shafts out. And the reason we do that, if you take a look at this gear, it's not round in the center, it's keyed. So when this gear spins, it forces the axle shafts to spin, which spins the tires. So to get this gear out that's in there, we're going to have to take the axle shafts out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the wheels off camera. We've seen that plenty of times. And then I'll show you how to get the axle shafts out. So I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Wheels are off. Also pulled off the hex adapters. These little doohickeys. Come on, focus. So you see the backside has a slot where the pin nestles into it. That's what spins the hex adapter, which spins the wheel. Took the pin out of the axle shaft. You don't want to lose those. So now we're left with just our axle shaft. Let's take a look before we just start unscrewing things. We've got a bearing here on each side and a couple of screws. So these screws, the heads are holding that bearing in place. Now back to no handle. We're going to remove these two screws from the ends of our axles. And now with those screws out of the way, you literally just pull your axle shaft out. So stock axle shaft, pretty skinny. These do tend to break if you take a big tumble or you're driving and crawling too hard, you get wedged or pinched and you try to throttle through it, you can snap an axle shaft. You can buy replacements, they're not expensive. If I can get this to focus, there we go. You can see the end of that shaft is keyed. Just, come on. Just like our diff gear. So that locks it into place and spins it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the other axle shaft and get our diff cover removed. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Just like that, all the work's done. So just like the front, diff cover has a bearing in it. We've got our worm screw up top, which is connected to our drive shaft. So we are going to have to unscrew our drive shaft that's attached to the other end of this worm gear, which I did not do because I forgot. So you can see on the new one, it's got a eye for a screw. That's what we're attaching our drive shafts to. But now that our axle shafts are removed, this whole gear now comes out. There are bearings on either side of that gear. that the axle shafts fit in. And that is not coming out because I've not done what I just talked about and removed our drive shaft. I'm shooting this late at night after work. I work retail, so odd hours sometimes. But I'm off tomorrow, and I'm thinking about all the crawling I can do. All right, so drive shaft removed. And now, that gear comes out easily. So it did have some grease on it. Not a ton. And behind this gear, you can see there's also a bearing. We're going to take our new worm gear and in one of our dime bags of RC parts that came with our order, we've got more O-rings. Just so many O-rings. We're just going to shim our worm gear by putting an O-ring on each side. That'll help take up any potential slop with this gear moving back and forth in the diff case. So it'll help remove a little bit of play in the drivetrain and keep it from destroying itself for longer, because these parts are going to wear out. Eventually, things break. So you're going to be doing this at some point. We're going to take our diff grease and our handy squirt gun. I just fill it up with a good amount of grease. Be smarter than I'm being right now. Set your stock gear aside or even. Throw it in a baggie. These are not interchangeable. Like if you put this gear with that worm gear, bad things happen. These have different pitches on the worm gears. So stock gear aside, I'll label that so I know what it is 6 months, a year from now when I'm digging around. In my tackle box of parts. Right there. We just slot that gear back in. Make sure your bearings have stayed in place. And then we drop our worm gear in. The side with the D shape goes through the diff case. That's what our drive shaft attaches to. We are not putting on the brass diff cover in the rear, because we want to have more forward weight. If we find when we're crawling later on that our back end is flipping over when we're going downhill, we might need some rear weight, might need to adjust our shocks. But you want more weight up front. So that's why we're not using this now. I'm going to add just a squirt. of grease here. Make sure our bearing is still in place. And just so, you'll have noticed this piece came loose. That's called a rear link riser. They often do not come with the aftermarket upgraded axles. I don't know why. I wish they would. So that'll sit in there like that with the diff cover on top. Your rear link riser nestled in between. So I'm going to go ahead and screw that down before we put the axle shafts, and I'll meet you back and we'll put the axle shafts back in. Diff cover is back together. Now we're putting our axle shafts back in. I hope, and I forgot to tell you, to mark left and right, because don't listen to that. These go in whichever way. And sometimes it's a little tricky to get them to seat right. And I thought I was going to be fancy on camera. And get it to do it real easy and slick. There we go. Sometimes I leave the diff cover off so I can help manipulate that gear into place with my finger, because it's just kind of floating in there until you get your axle shafts back locked into it. Trying to show off, and ends up taking longer. So now it's just a matter of putting our screws back on either, or do you say either? I guess I could say either way. This makes for fascinating YouTube, I'm sure. I do try to do the favor of running 2x speed when I'm not talking about stuff that's important. All back together, new diff gear installed. I'm going to throw these wheels and tires on, and then we'll run it on our trusty Dr. Pepper can. I'm from Oklahoma. Everyone around here has to drink Dr. Pepper. I don't make the rules. So we're just going to boom, I think I'm supposed to say. Please don't sue me if that's like a trademarked, copyrighted thing. Now that that's all done, I'll get the body put back together, plug in my battery to the correct spot on the ESC, and hopefully not burn my house down tonight. Let's see how our underdrive gear has affected our tape test. Back on the trusty Dr. Pepper can, got our tape at the bottom of each tire. We're hooked up. So I'm going to let this tire do one full rotation back to here, and notice where this one ends up. Whoops, a little far. There we go. One full rotation up front. 2/3 of a rotation on the back. That's because of our 33% underdrive. So this is spinning 1/3 faster than our rear tires now. And that is going to help suck the front end down when we're climbing. So the front end is going to pull and the rear end is going to drag, and that's going to keep the truck planted along with our forward weight bias. So it's going to want to, on an incline, instead of tipping back and unloading, it's going to want to, one, the tires are going to drag it up the hill, and the weight is going to help pull it down with gravity. So let's go run our turning radius test and see if we actually do end up with a tighter turning radius. Indigo is here. He's been helping. Indigo, do you have something to tell the people? Psst, hey buddy. What Indigo has to say that he's too ashamed to talk about. Isn't that right, buddy? He came in here and ripped off our tape markers after we did our initial stock gearing turning radius test. This guy said, that's not supposed to be there, and took off with it. So I redid it, followed the same procedures that you saw on camera, and there he goes, hey, buddy, no, dude, you don't need LEDs. Thank you. Back to the starting line for our turning radius test. We ran out of room. We're set back up on the left-hand side of the tape. Tires are just on this side of the tape. We're going full lock. And we'll do a slow crawl first. You guys, this is ridiculous. We'll just cross the tape. Got our Sharpie mark. Slow crawl, 33% underdrive. We're going to reset again. Just on the left-hand side of the tape, we're lined up at the edge of it. And in front, tires are just behind the tape line. We're going to go full lock. And we're going to do a fast crawl. Really no change, huh? I've run this before with a different truck and it did change. Let's try it faster. There we go. Small. Fast 33% underdrive. Hi, Beanie. Hi, Bean. Say hello to the people. Beanie. You're a good girl. Yeah. So, underdrive at 33% underdrive in the rear. Couple feet. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4-ish truck lengths with underdrive versus ran out of room. All right, we're getting near the crawling spot for the second time. Drove all the way here, forgot one of the controllers. We are running 2 trucks today, but it's a beautiful day, so can't be mad. These purple flowers are blooming. Fluffy white clouds. It's still going to be a good day. We've got the Bronco. It's got our modified XHX pins with slime balls for inserts. Sitting on a Muse LCG chassis. So, got lots of tuning options. It sits a lot lower than stock. It's closest setup wise with the brush motor to the C10, and we are going to run a challenge course. So we're going to come up through gate 1, back down through gate 2, along this section here, up this steep incline to gate 3, turn around, come down that steep side hill incline to 4, and then up to 5, and the finish gate. So we're going to see how the Bronco compares to our mostly completed C10. Let's go ahead and run this course. We're not doing reverse penalties, and because I hate those. We've got reverse for a reason. I don't think it's impressive to hit the perfect line right away. If you find a line from searching for it, I think that's cooler. But anyways, we're going to count rollovers, touches, and gate hits. Well, let's see how the Bronco does. Clean progress on gate 1. See if we can get lined up without dumping it over for gate 2. Clean progress on 2. Gate 3 might be a challenge. Let's see if we can do it. I think we got it. There's one rollover. We'll reset about where we lost it. Progress on 4. Oh, I hit that gate doing the reverse. And there's the finish. So 1 gate touch, 1 roll. Pretty good run. We'll switch to the C10 and do the same thing. Back at the starting line with the C10. We're all hooked up and ready to go. Easy progress on gate 1. Get lined up here for gate 2. Yeah, we hit that gate. There it is. The one gate so far. The red Endura motor is a little slower than the purple, and the Bronco has the Endura purple transmission. It's a Mod 5 gear setup, so it's got faster wheel speed. I like it slower, so I like this red motor with the underdrive. The Bronco has overdrive in the front. We're starting to unload a little bit here. Let's see if we can get through this gate clean. Nope, hit that gate. Oh, we made it up the incline. Let's see if we can come around and make gate 4. We didn't lose it. So clean progress on gate 4. Oh, we touched gate 5. And through the finish. So also not a perfect run. A couple gate touches. I think 3. One fell off. But no rollovers, so it's becoming a proper crawler. Let's just have some fun with it now. Just hit some lines. Final thoughts. What do we think of this? It's moving in the right direction. Definitely still needs more front weight. When we're climbing, still wanting to tip back instead of settling back down. I think we can fix that. So next time, turn away from the window so I don't blind you with the sun glare. We're going to do heavy brass steering knuckles and upgraded front drive shafts. We're going to do the steering mod, which will give us a much tighter turning radius. It may require some more front end trimming. This front bumper might have to go. We'll see. But overall, it's turning into a good crawler. I think anybody that does these mods would be happy with the results. Peace.